Hi, I'm Rosemary. You can call me Rosie if you want, but roses don't seem to live long around me. Please call me Mary. I am 47, divorced, and have been a stay-at-home mother for as long as I can remember. I have two children, Damien and Samara. They are my pride and joy. Damien lives at home and is still figuring stuff out. Samara graduated from law school and has recently gotten married. I was invited to Samara's in-laws for dinner. It was my first time going, and I was nervous to see how Samara was settling in her new home. When I arrived at the gate, I was greeted by their deranged dog, clearly disturbed by the way it was barking. Luckily, Samara hurried out and quietened that menace. The house was gorgeous, sumptuously decorated, and it exuded an aura of tranquility. I must have spent close to an hour basking in its presence before we were called for dinner. The food was extraordinary. I was spoiled for choice with the variety of meat served. I fondly remember the beef steak. The steak was rich in flavor, tender and cooked to perfection. Fine dining was something I had never experienced before in my working-class life. So, as you can imagine, I was having a wonderful time. That was until Eric, the child of the family, suddenly broke down. It was a breakdown like no other. He was inconsolable. Sluggishly pointing in my direction, Eric repeated, "Go away." He was afraid of me? I was so embarrassed that I picked up my belongings and abruptly left. The next day, Samara called. I was expecting some sort of apology for the way her in-laws behaved. I mean, I understood they were trying to console their child, but what about me and my feelings? Instead, Samara said, she had something important to discuss. It needed me to stay home. Later that night, Samara came over. She was accompanied by a priest. Bewildered, I asked Samara why she had brought a priest along. Hastily, she replied, "Mom, please, let's talk inside." We all went in and sat down by the fireplace. I could tell that there was something wrong with her. However, she started by saying that there was something wrong with me, something sinister. She said there were signs that I was possessed. At this moment, the priest interjected. He said, "It is no coincidence that life ceases to exist around you. Animals see you as a threat, and the innocent don't want to be near you." For a brief moment, it started to make sense. But then I realized how truly insane this all sounded, so I politely asked them to leave and spare me of this absurdity. That conversation laid the foundation for what I can only describe as a chain of incomprehensible events. My perspective on life, once peaceful, now shattered to pieces. I would look in the mirror and I could see the reflection, but I could not recognize what was looking back. The moral contents of my mind were being erased and replaced with every evil thought imaginable. I became spiteful, and I couldn't control the darkness growing inside me. In that moment, I knew I needed help. I reached out to Samara and I pleaded that she come over. Not long after, Samara and the priest arrived. The priest swiftly unpacked his bag and laid a Bible, holy water, and a relic on the table. The atmosphere in the room was tense. I was terrified. The priest began by flicking holy water on me. Each droplet that landed on my skin burned. With the relic placed on the center of my forehead, he recited some prayers. I could feel this entity inside me slowly take over. I became a passenger inside my own body. The priest asked, "Who are you?" I was helpless. I couldn't respond. The priest asked for a second time, this time louder, "Who are you?" This time, however, I heard a deep and threatening voice come from within me. "Leave us alone," it muttered. I mustered every ounce of energy I had and screamed, "Damien, please, call Damien." Samara looked puzzled and asked, "Mom, who is Damien?" I yelled, "Damien, your brother!" Samara, now in tears, snapped back, screaming at the top of her lungs, "Mom, I am your only child!" The pain was unbearable, and no matter how much I willed, I couldn't stop this entity from taking over again. It announced, "I am Damien. I am the demon who latched onto Rosemary in her childhood. For decades, I've lived peacefully in this vessel, and not once caused her harm. I have protected her, and this is how you want to repay me? By banishing me to hell? No, go ahead. You can hurt me, torture me, burn me alive if you will, but I will never leave. Rosemary needs me." The priest recited his prayers faster and with more conviction. You could feel the priest summon the strength of God as Damien was being ripped out of me. They were relieved that it was finally over. Or so they thought. In that moment, I felt I had to protect Damien, just like how he has protected me for all those years. You see, most people would struggle to come to terms that there is something living inside of them. Not me. No. I quite like knowing that despite being in a home alone, I am not lonely. Whether or not I can trust Damien to remain peaceful, now that remains to be seen.